Okay, what we're going to cover in this video is factorization, different factorization skills. There is multiple factorization skills that we need to learn. It depends on the question. So each questions we have to treat it differently. In general, the first thing you look for most of the times is the common factor, and then after you've taken all the common factor between all the terms, then you will have to think either of factorizing using quadratic factorization or a group factorization. Now if we look into this example 1, you will see that we've got a quadratic equation because the highest power of 2, so you're expecting the answer of a factorization is 2 brackets multiplied together. If you look into the x squared in here, the coefficient of x squared is 6, so it's not 1. So this is what we called is a harder quadratic factorization, because it's quite easy when the coefficient of x squared is 1, but it's slightly harder when the coefficient of x squared is more than 1 or is not 1. So what we look for in this case, the first step is looking for a common factor between the 3 terms. The common factor that you look for is the coefficient of x squared. In this case, what we've got in here is not possible because the common factor, the 6 is not a common factor. So we will have to use the harder factorization method. There is a different methods to solve this, but the method that I will use is as follows. So the first step I'll do is multiplying the coefficient of x squared with the constant. So I will do 6 times -10, and that's give me -60. Then I'll look for 2 factors of 60 that the 2 factors of 60 that adds up to -11. So I've got -15 times 4. That's factors of 60. And -60 is factors of -60, and if I add those together, give me -11. Now what I will do, I will rewrite this equation here, but replacing the middle term, which is -11x, by -15 and 4, writing the bigger number first. You're taking the absolute of the number, means with ignoring the signs, okay? When you compare which one is bigger, you ignore the signs, because -15 is smaller than 4, but if I ignore the signs, then 15 is bigger than 4, if that's what I mean. So we will rewrite it in here. 6x squared minus 15x plus 4 minus 4x in here. Then I will do what we call group factorization. Group factorization means I will take the first 2 terms and look for the common factor between them, which is 3. Oops, I'll check different color. 3x. Then the leftover is 2x minus 5. Then I will do the same with the last 2 terms. The common factor is +2. Left is 2x minus 5. The aim after, how would you know that you are on the right track? In this step here, you should get those 2 brackets exactly the same. If those 2 brackets are not the same, then you've done something wrong. So now I will take the brackets as a common factor. So it's 2x minus 5. Then what's left over is those 2 factors in here, which is 3x plus 2. So that's the factorization of this example here. The next question is quite a simpler factorization because we've got only 2 terms in here. So that means we look for common factors. So the common factor of the numbers is 4. The common factor between the variables is A and B. So left over is B plus A. Oh, sorry. B and 3A. Okay, so that's the factorization. So it's way easier than example number 1. We're only looking for the common factors. Now the next one. Example number 3. again we've got a quadratic, but if you compare question number 3 and question number 4, they both quadratic, but this one looks different because this one only has 2 terms, which is the x squared terms and the constant term. This one has 3 terms, which is the more general one of the quadratic. So in here, because we have what we call this equation, we call it the difference between two squares. The difference because we've got a minus in between. Two squares mean I can find the square root of each term. So if I look at the 4x squared, the square root of 4x squared is 2x, because 2x times 2x is 4x. So I'll open 2 brackets because I've got a quadratic, so the factorization is always 2 brackets. So I'll write the square root of the first term in here. Then I will write the square root of the second term, which is 3. Then I'll do negative plus. That's it. That's the difference between 2 squares. So again, you can only do this when you have a negative in between. That's what made it quite easy. If we have a positive or plus in here, if we have a plus in here, we can't factorize it anymore. Okay, question number 4, we've got another harder quadratic because the coefficient of x squared is not 1. So the first thing, again, as I said before, we look for common factor, and we cannot find any common factors here, so we will have to use the longer quadratic method. So as we remember from the first example, we multiply the coefficient of x squared by the constants. So I've got 6 times negative 12. So we multiply 6 times 12, and that gives me negative 72. So that means I will look for the factors of 72. Negative 72, that has the difference between them is 1, and obviously it's 8 and 9. So I've got negative 9 times 8. Those are the two factors that multiply the two numbers that times them together give me negative 72. Add them together give me negative 1. Now again, we will rewrite this expression here, replacing the middle factor with those two numbers. Again, we will write the negative 9 first. So we will have 6x squared minus 9x plus 8x minus 12. Now we will do group factorization. So we'll use the first two terms. The common factor between them is 3x. So left is 2x minus 3. And then the common factor between the two terms is positive 4. And left is 2x minus 3. And this is, as I repeating, just repeating that to know that you are on right track up to here when you got those two brackets exactly the same. Now we will take the brackets as a common factor. The leftover is the first factor, and therefore, and that's the answer. Now, next questions, again, that's another harder quadratic. Normally you will get a harder quadratic, to be honest, in the exams. So it's good to practice these a lot. So we will multiply the coefficient of x squared by negative 6, and that gives me negative 24. Now we will look for the two factors. Let's multiply them together, give me negative 24, add them, give me 5. Okay, so the two factors, obviously, they are 3 and 8. And because I want positive 5, so the 8 must be positive and negative 3. So I'll rewrite in here using the 8 and 3, positive 8x minus 3x minus 6. Looking for the common factor between the first two terms, which is 4x is actually the common factor. So left is x plus 2. And then the common factor in here is negative 3. So left is x plus 2. And you can see the brackets are the same. That means I'm on the right track. So I've got the bracket as a common factor, and the leftover is the first term minus 3. sorry, the first factor minus the second factor. Now we'll do one more example. Again, we look for 5 as a common factor is not, so we will have to use the longer quadratic factor or the harder factorization method, which is -10 multiplying 5 by -2, looking for the two factors of -10, having a difference of -9, and obviously it's 10 and 1, so it's -10 times 1. Rewriting it using -10 first, finding the common factor between the first two terms, which is 5x, left is x minus 2. The common factor between the second two terms is, oh sorry, that's positive. I was thinking wouldn't give me the right answer. So it's +1 and x minus 2. Okay, now the common brackets, the brackets are the same. That means we are on the right track. So we'll take the bracket as a common factor, and the leftovers are the two factors, what we found in step number 2.